All right, so here we go, folks. We're going to be talking about Planet Nine, and here's what we're going to do to start things out. We're going to bring on all three men tonight, and we're going to start out with John DiNardo. He would like to give a presentation on this here briefly, and then following that, we will also include everybody. I mean, so we're all going to be live here, but we'll start with John. John DiNardo, welcome to Late Night in the Midlands. Peter, Dr. Rand, welcome, guys. John, how are you tonight?
Hi, Michael. I'm happy to be with you and your audience.
Well, it's good to have you. So, John, I don't think we need to do backgrounds tonight. I think everybody who follows this show knows who all three of you are. Unless you want to give a little background, feel free to do so, and start where you'd like.
Okay. I had composed some information that I was constituted my analysis of this Planet Nine report. And I had written two separate messages. One was the initial analysis of this Planet Nine report, and the other was a rebuttal or an answer to someone who had the opposite opinion. So I'm going to start off. For some reason, it seems that the rebuttal or the answer to the skeptic is the first composition to read that I composed this afternoon. And then after reading the rebuttal, I'm going to read the original message. It sounds a little backwards, but I think it may come out all right. Okay. I'm going to start here. This is what I wrote today in answer to someone who disagreed. Quoting from the Washington Post report. It was an important report in December, the middle of December 2015, December 11th to be exact. Washington Post, quote, scientists claim they found elusive Planet X. Doubting astronomers are in an uproar. That's the title of this Washington Post report. Now, I'm saying here, why would they have a title of a Washington Post report about Planet X, and the subtitle is Doubting Astronomers Are in an Uproar? My answer is, why should any astronomers be in an uproar? The ALMA astronomers, now these ALMA astronomers are the ones whom the article is referring to. ALMA stands for the Atacama, that's a place in Chile. Atacama Large Millimeter Array Telescope. And this telescope is a radio telescope comprised of large parabolic dishes that are actually radio signal receivers that detect not only will detect radio waves from various faraway objects. And so the name of this observatory is the ALMA Observatory. It stands for Atacama Large Millimeter Array. It's an array of parabolic dishes laid out in a large field. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm saying, why in the world would astronomers be in an uproar over this? What this ALMA Observatory in Chile claims is possibly Planet X. My answer is the ALMA astronomers obligingly asked the astronomers of the world to study ALMA sightings and render their feedback. So what was the problem? Why is the Washington Post saying that there's a problem with this information that the ALMA astronomers have published? It seems like they're concerned about the astronomers of the world, according to the Washington Post report, are concerned because this ALMA observatory claims they may have spotted Planet X. Now, here's the article. The antennas of the Atacama Large Millimeter Submillimeter Array under the northern Chilean sky. Researchers using the ALMA say they have found two mysterious large objects at the outskirts of the solar system. It's a big, dark presence at the farthest reaches of our solar system, a mysterious force powerful enough to skew the paths of planets in orbit, and yet so subtle that it slips undetected past even the most powerful telescopes on Earth. For centuries, it has eluded some of the most brilliant minds in history. Some say it even destroyed one of those astronomers. Now, my comment is, I interject with this comment that says that is an unwarranted lie against the founder of the Lowell Observatory in Arizona. No evidence is presented to back up this lie. Percival Lowell was not destroyed by his search for Planet X. In fact, that search led to the famous discovery of Pluto. Now, in the Washington Post, I continue. It's the subject of endless calculations and rampant speculation, says the Washington Post. I reply, oh, rampant speculation? Many non-mainstream observers believe that world-class astronomer Dr. Robert Harrington, chief of the U.S. Naval Observatory, was murdered, and that his telescopic photos never saw their promised public release. He abruptly died of cancer just as he was about to unveil his photos. Was Dr. Harrington a rampant speculator? Washington Post. And then the Washington Post goes on to write in their mid-December article, crackpot theories. They're referring to Planet X theories again. And my comment in reply is, that's an unwarranted slur. No evidence is provided to even suggest that Dr. Harrington and Dr. Van Flandern were crackpots. When the Council on Foreign Relations controlled Washington Post sets out to destroy threatening information, they are blatantly obvious. And Washington Post continues, and countless hours of spent gazing fruitlessly. My reply is, what do you mean fruitlessly? I am appending the Washington Post's own 1983 front-page report of the U.S., Britain, Netherlands orbiting telescope, the infrared astronomical satellites, sighting of Planet X, a report which was quickly overruled and suppressed by the NSA, the National Security Agency. And continuing on with the Washington Post article, they're saying, and countless hours spent gazing fruitlessly at the night sky. Its object is known as Planet X, says the Washington Post. And on Tuesday, a group of astronomers said they found not just one such presence, but two of them, ALMA, and they're quoting the ALMA Observatory now in the Washington Post article. They're saying, quote, ALMA discovers the most distant object of the solar system. Read the title of one paper uploaded to the research site. Another title from ALMA is The Serendipitous Discovery of a Possible New Solar System Object with ALMA. But that's another title quoted by the Washington Post. Using the Atacama Large Millimeter Array, a powerful telescope located in the high desert of Chile, the researchers said they'd come across two extremely large objects. Though both studies were submitted to the prestigious journal named Astronomy and Astrophysics, neither study has been peer-reviewed or formally published. These are steps that are par for the course with any kind of serious scientific research, but especially when pronouncements of previously unknown planets are at stake, says the Washington Post. My reply is, okay. The Washington Post is assuming the authority to dictate refereeing this sighting by the ALMA astronomers, ruling that ALMA has violated some tacit science protocol by asking the science community to examine its sightings. A publishing newspaper has no right to deny scientists their right to publish. So the Washington Post is speaking hypocritically. Now let us read on and learn what Michael Brown has unilaterally, not calling for a community consensus, but Michael Brown has arbitrarily declared something about these sightings. Now going back to the Washington Post article, quote, Washington Post, these studies are both based on limited observations, just two spottings apiece for each odd object, And even after just 48 hours online, they have garnered a great deal of skepticism within the astronomy community. So you can see that the Washington Post is trying to downplay or discredit these Planet X sightings from the largest observatory, radio astronomy observatory in the world, the ALMA Observatory. They're calling it their skepticism. They're saying, the Washington Post is saying that the astronomy community is skeptical about the sightings, but the researchers say they posted their papers with exactly that purpose. We specifically wanted to reach the community that could tell us if we overlooked something, in which case we fully intend to withdraw the papers. This was a statement by a representative at Chalmers University of Technology, one of the ALMA astronomers. This ALMA astronomer was claiming that, hey, look, we're just publishing our sightings of Planet X. We want the astronomy community to give us feedback. We're not trying to, bypass any authorities at all. We're just asking for your opinion as to our sightings. Yet, this is my comment, the Washington Post continues to discredit this report of the two sightings from the ALMA Observatory. Well, anyway, they say this could be an asteroid-type object roughly the size of Ireland, zooming around somewhere near Uranus. Alternately, the researchers propose it could be an undiscovered planet floating much farther out, or even a brown dwarf, bigger than a planet, smaller than a star, passing through interstellar space. I'm going to skip a little bit here.
Okay.
But the researchers say that's less likely. It's also not coincidentally less interesting, all of which sounds pretty cool. This is the Washington Post speaking now. All of which sounds pretty cool unless you're Mike Brown, a Caltech astronomer who has spent the majority of his career scanning the farthest reaches of the solar system for just these kinds of objects. Brown, the self-proclaimed Pluto killer, who discovered a trans-Neptunian object that helped dethrone the erstwhile ninth planet back in 2005, Brown would be thrilled to find the long-sought Planet X. He'd be almost as happy to see a paper reporting that other researchers had found it. Okay. But these two papers, Brown says, are not Planet X. In other words, Brown is this famous astronomer, Michael Brown of Caltech, whom we'll read more about in his published Planet 9 report just recently. This famous Caltech astronomer, Michael Brown, is trying to discredit the two sightings by the largest radio telescope astronomers in the world, the ALMA Observatory, which their sightings occurred in December, just about a month ago. Brown goes on to say, the logical leaps are sort of astounding, he said. What they really say they saw is a little blip, and then 6 months later, another little blip, unquote, from Michael Brown. Now, my comment is, well, Dr. Brown, did you examine these sightings, which the ALMA astronomers asked you to examine? No, you did not. Instead, in January 2016, you chose to altogether deny by omission that ALMA had published their sightings, but to ridicule them in this December 2015 Washington Post report. Yet in your January, this is the Planet 9 report we're referring to now. Yet, Dr. Brown, in your January 2016 Caltech report, you covertly reference and attempt to discredit the ALMA Observatory's report with a creative version of your own, apparently designed to stand ALMA's report on its head. And this you do by hypothesizing a gang of unidentified large outlying objects. The evidence, now what the Washington Post goes on to say, the evidence that the researchers, I'm going to change the sound of my voice so you'll know who's the Washington Post and who's me. Okay, that makes it easier. The Washington Post says, the evidence that the researchers offer for their findings is too scanty Brown said, and the probability that they could have stumbled across a huge planet-like object in a tiny patch of sky is too small. Finding Planet X in the small field of vision they studied with the ALMA telescope, he said, quote, would be like scooping a cup full of water from the ocean and pulling out the white whale, unquote. And I reply, hey, Washington Post and Dr. Brown, do you not recall that Dr. Harrington had long since done the computer calculations and the southern hemisphere-based telescopic photographs of Planet X, which NASA has concealed for the past quarter century? And do you not recall that the Infrared Astronomical Satellite, IRAS, had long since sighted Planet X, and that NASA's Pioneer 10 space probe, which was launched specifically to detect Planet X, that all of these sources had already detected that small section of the sky where Planet X was located, and that therefore tracking Planet X from those points in space and time until its present point in space was and is quite feasible with the billions of dollars worth of space telescopes. For example, the WISE telescope, the Chandra telescope, the Hubble telescope, and with NASA's quasi-secret billion-dollar South Pole telescope.
So then what you're saying then is that this Planet 9 report is really a psyop?
Well, that's my opinion. I looked at it, I studied it, and the way it's written, it appears that the Planet 9 report is a fanciful, creative rebuttal or answer to
I've got the answer.
December.
John,
yes.
My dear friend John, this is Jason. How are you?
Hi, Jason.
Did you shovel that snow okay today? Are you all right?
Oh yeah, I'm okay. I got a good workout shoveling snow.
All right. Well, welcome to the club. Welcome to the gentleman's club here. I mean, I'd like to take a shot real quick at all of this, and then I want to turn it over to my dear friend Peter. I just want to set us up for tonight. Is that okay? Do I have
Sure.
everyone's permission to
Sure.
do that?
Sure, go right ahead.
Of course.
Because I butted in. All right. Okay. We're talking, by the way, John, so far it's brilliant. Bravo.
Thank you.
Bravo. It's great. Seriously. You did your homework.
I just need two different voices. One to voice.
No, it's beautiful. No, it reads beautifully.
Myself.
Reads beautifully, and you're a great narrator. No, the show's off to a great start tonight. Now, let me drop a little quick bombshell on everybody. Do you remember we wrote a book called The Return of Planet X? And in it, I detailed my personal theory based on, 6, 8, 9 years of research and 3,000 references and talking to a dozen scientists and going to conferences. I've got this whole thing figured out. I really hate to think that all that work we did, and by the way, without Michael's help, did you know we rode the top 10 for almost a year at Amazon.com with our book. So I'm very grateful. We sold lots and lots of books, and I get lots and lots of letters and comments. And I got 2 today that I just got to share with you. One says, "It's about damn time." I'm sorry. "It's about darn time." I'm reading this quote. It's from a lady friend of mine. "That somebody finally got the damn story right." So you tell them the rest of it, my friend, and then her name. Okay. This is somebody who was with me from the original writing of the book. And there's a dozen others, but that's not the point. The point is that Michael and I and Peter and John, you've been talking about this for how many years now, my friend? 20 years? 25 years?
No, it's been 11 years now.
11. Okay. All right. None of us here tonight have any doubts that maybe finally the lid's off the teapot. Do we all kind of agree? and especially with the Washington Post involved. Who was it, guys, in 1983 that broke the story that NASA, with IRAS, had discovered Planet X? They called it Planet X.
Yes.
And then a year later in 84, U.S. News and World Report reconfirmed the story, adding details to it, and they called it Planet X. We've got that published in our book. There is no mystery here, guys. There's no mystery. Here's why. I've always maintained that all these stories about Nibiru, you know, the ancient Sumerian planet of the gods, they called it Nibiru, which means, I think it means crossing, doesn't it?
Yes. The ancient Sumerian name for crossing, planet of the crossing, because it crosses the orbital paths of our solar system's planets.
Every 36 to 4,000 years, the legends have it that there is a strange celestial serpent-like object that comes roaring out of the universe, aimed directly at our solar system, and this object terrorizes our sun. It doesn't affect, it doesn't physically touch, it does not enter into the solar system. It simply is on approach toward the solar system, and it's coming in at a clockwise trajectory. Our solar system, everything in it, the sun, all the planets, the earth, every rock in the asteroid belt, every moon, every comet is controlled by the sun. Whatever computer program put this one together, I'd sure like to see the hard drive. Okay? That sun keeps everything in perfect balance and has done so with minor interruptions now and then for about 8 to 11 billion years. They believe our solar system is approximately, and I could be off, give me a break, a billion years. Between 8 and 11 billion years old, took our solar system to form. Now, that could very well be, but since then there have been a lot of changes. And one of them, we believe, now I'm going to go into what, by the way, all the conspiracy-oriented listeners, none of you are wrong. Something really smells bad here. Trust me, guys. I haven't weighed into this report, but what I'm setting up is this. There's something really stinks here. Too many factors don't work together. The announcement, I'm telling you that if this is wormwood coming back, as mentioned in the book of Revelation, chapter 8, verse 11, and the name of the star, I'm quoting, and the name of the star is wormwood. So if you read just that 8th chapter of the book of Revelation, from word 1, verse 1, word 1, to last word, last verse, it's talking about the very last part of the earth's beginning its tribulation period. You see, here's what's happening. We're just beginning the nearing of the tribulation period. And if you read Matthew, you find out that there's going to be all these crazy weather things and all this stuff before the earth turns on its axis. What they're meaning is that there are things that are going to be affecting Earth. Now, we can easily slide into, I got to get Peter in here. Okay, if I'm right, wormwood is that object number one that they're talking about. As big as Neptune. Well, how about the size of Saturn? We believe that this object is wormwood, the baby sun that was cast out. Remember, our original solar system didn't have 9 planets. It had 12 planets, moons, no asteroid belt. That disaster hadn't happened yet. That's Marduk that got shattered. There used to be a planet, we believe, based on all of the evidence we've uncovered, and it's all sourced in the book. By the way, everything in the Return of Planet X book is sourced at the back of each chapter. Every phrase, every word, every admission, every fact. Where I'm going with this is real simple. I think wormwood is the first dark object, and the second dark object, I believe, is the lost planet, Sitchin's, Zechariah Sitchin's 12th planet. I think that's Nibiru. Now, I'll probably catch all kind of giggles and laughs and all of that, but guess what? We've been right so far about wormwood, so why couldn't the rest of the... See, this all comes from Hopi and Navajo prophecy. See, they've been talking about the dark star Kachina for longer than any of us can know on those beautiful, beautiful, out on the desert nights under spectacular skies. They had been visited by what they call the space people. They had been visited for centuries and centuries and got along quite well with their sky people. See, we really don't understand the significance of the transformation and the paradigm switch that is going on right now at this minute as we consummate your radio show tonight. We proudly, and I hope I don't get too many darts thrown at me, I think that this show and our subject tonight might be the kickoff point for the paradigm switch to begin. Because, and we talked about this with Peter, okay, I got to get off the soapbox. You guys got the drift of where I'm coming from. This is no big surprise.
Sure.
It's been predicted, and it falls in line with the fact that the ancients believed that wormwood did have Nibiru in tow. I'm proposing that that's Nibiru. Now, they're calling it a dark blue icy planet. Well, it looks, by the way, the artist's rendition of it is absolutely, utterly, spectacularly beautiful. If you don't do anything else tonight, everybody, go Google up Planet 9. There's something called the Kurzweil AI Accelerating Intelligence.news website, and there's a great story. I've got it right in front of me. It goes all into the extended orbits that they believe. You see, where did all this data come from? These beautiful graphic depictions of their orbits. It's totally exotic, and it's probably totally correct. So we can't be going around yelling conspiracy here, conspiracy. See, I don't believe any of this is part of some global conspiracy. Yes, there's been reason and cause to, take Planet X underground and do damage where possible. And everybody out there listening knows what I'm talking about. And both of my guests and the host have been subject to other than pleasant feedback from sources and people because they disagree with us. It didn't stop us. And here we are tonight, everybody. Hello, Michael. Thank you for having me.
Well, hello, Dr. Ray.
I think we found Planet X. On that point, I'm going to turn it over to Peter.
Mr. Kling, welcome aboard.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. An absolute pleasure. And yes, we are pushing back some frontier here. Not so much in the essence of that we found something, but that we've identified something. And that we've identified, I'm going to disagree with the doctor here just a little bit. We've identified a conspiracy in the cover-up. There is a conspiracy in Nibiru. It's the cover-up that it exists, or that something exists that is out there that is going to cause us a problem. And you look at all the different situations that they try to suppress, and these things just keep on bubbling up like a pot that bubbles over. And Nibiru and the comets that we've had pretty much since about Ellen and maybe a little bit before, there's been a lot of astronomers that have mysteriously died studying both.
Yep.
Now,
Yep.
yeah, they got, if as I recall, they got 14 in one cable car accident in France.
Yeah, they wiped the entire team out. They killed them all. Yeah.
So now, why, they were killing astronomers. Then they started killing somebody else. What was it, 2 years ago? They were killing banksters. They were killing bankers.
They got nailed, Peter.
Yeah. They got nailed. Suicide by nail gun, about 11, 12, 13 shots, whatever it was that it took to put the... Yeah, that's a tough guy, I'll tell you what. Determined. Just pure determined to commit suicide by nail gun. Oh, yeah, so when you see things like...
As serious as this subject is, my friends, as dire serious as everything that's happening, the terrorism and this political screw-up system we have, and this looming election, that listen, everybody, if we don't get this election right, I'm not going to talk sides, I'm not talking about people, I'm not talking about favorites, whomever, man, woman, child, whoever gets elected. If you don't get it right this time, there's going to be no third chance. Now, that sounds really hysterical, doesn't it?
Oh,
well, you better look around, and you better think about what's happened to this country in the last, let's say, the last 10 years. Let's not throw it all on one person's shoulders, okay? Now, if we're right, if tonight's show turns out to be a little shred of light into this weird story that gets weirder by the moment, don't forget, it was the Washington Post who broke the Planet X story in the first place. I never did finish that point. They're the ones who announced it, and yet they're the ones who are trying to destroy it. Why? Somebody owns the Washington Post. Somebody is pulling the strings and writing the stories. You can only be judged by the content of your story and the purpose of your mission in the story. Either it's for good, or it's for neutralization, or it's for bad. In this case, it's both neutralization and bad. And this guy Brown, here's what I believe. Brown was the guy that demoted Pluto to make room to bring in an announcement of another planet, so that they can't say Planet X. They would have to say Planet 9, or the ninth planet. But no, that's not how it went. Brown destroyed Pluto's credentials to become a planet, to stay a planet, and he demoted it. Now, what is behind Brown attacking again this subject? I'm only saying there's something not right in the chicken coop. So don't we need to find out where the fox is?
Jason, let me just interject.
Yeah.
What I'm complaining about Dr. Brown is that he first tried to discredit this ALMA Observatory's sightings last month, just a month ago in mid-December, with a Washington Post hit piece. It was very unscientific, it was unfair, made a lot of distorted claims against, this Washington Post made a lot of distorted claims against the ALMA Observatory's sightings of Planet X, even though the ALMA Observatory is the largest telescope on the planet. And this Washington Post report, which I'm sort of giving you sections of it with my commentary, my written commentary, shows that the Washington Post is set out to deliberately destroy the ALMA Observatory's credentials and their trustworthiness and their reliability. Why would they do that?
Right.
Of course,
right,
they've
exactly.
been doing that. They've been destroying those who talk about Planet X, trying to discredit them in the eyes of the public for many years now. Ever since the suppression, as you say, back in 1983 of the Washington Post discovery or announcement of NASA's infrared astronomical satellite discovery.
Well, they called it Planet X, John.
And
at
that time
they
called it Planet X. At that time, they were not suppressed by the NSA, but suddenly the NSA, back in December 1983, says, "Wait a minute,
what are you doing?
Maybe you guys should not be. We don't. Now we're starting to think about it. You guys should not be talking about this Planet X coming in because." Many astronomers of today, and this I'm just paraphrasing what they would be saying. NASA is saying, now we're hearing from astronomers today claiming that the sun is pulling in this massive dwarf star due to the sun's great gravitational force field, because the sun is much, much bigger than Planet X. It's huge. So, of course, by gravitation, if it's pulling it in, that means this object is going to pass by Earth. It's going to devastate our solar system as it passes even several million miles away from Earth. It will not hit Earth, but its gravitational pull on passing Earth will be so destructive that it will pull up land masses, cause land masses to rise up out of the sea, which Edgar Casey had prophesied in his sleep trances, that land masses would rise up from the ocean, and civilization of the world would be totally destroyed. Most of the people on planet Earth would be killed. So NASA was saying in 1983 to the Washington Post, hey, you guys should not be talking about this. And 6 days later, I have yet to go to my library to get this report, but 6 days after the December 1983 Washington Post report of their discovery of Planet X, they came out, Washington Post came out and said, we made a mistake. It wasn't an object. It wasn't Planet X. It was some kind of a cloud or something. It was such a phony, feeble retraction of the original statement because the NSA told them, shut your mouth and stop talking about it. Ever since 1983, and it's been suppressed, except for the leak from the, as you mentioned, the U.S. News and World Report, the third largest news magazine in the U.S. They reported, put out the report, which I have and photocopied, titled Planet X, Is It Really Out There? And, but that was the last time we heard about it. It's been suppressed all these years. And now we have the same Washington Post reversing itself and trying to discredit the ALMA Observatory's sightings of Planet X. And who's the big guy doing all the discrediting in December? Washington Post. It's Michael Brown. The same guy who authored this Planet 9 report, where he says, we found something out there. Well, of course, the same guy who discredited Planet X in December in the Washington Post is going to be the same guy who is now coming up with an alternate, fanciful, phony story about Planet X, Planet 9, making it sound like Planet XY to distract the public. He has to come out and tell you that something is there, but he's going to twist it a little bit. This is what CIA disinformation techniques have always been about. You give them some truth, but you twist it, put a twist on it so that it's no longer true, but you just make it seem like there's a shred of truth in it. This is all disinformation practice.
Well, you know what?
Michael Brown's Planet 9 report is all about.
Gentlemen, if I might, I've listened to you folks for the last half an hour. Let me interject a couple of things here. First, Doctor, you brought up something, and John, you reiterated it with the number 9. Now, let's keep one thing in mind here. The powers that be are the Illuminati, and they practice numerology like you wouldn't believe. Now, I want to just approach this first this way. The number 9 in numerology means this: universal love, eternal faith, universal spiritual laws, the concept of karma, spiritual enlightenment, spiritual awakening to humanity, humanitarianism, and to the humanitarian, light working and light workers, leading by positive example, philanthropy, and it goes on a little bit more with the positive aspects of this. But I want to point out universal spiritual laws, karma, spiritual enlightenment, and spiritual awakening. That is actually what is happening now.
saying that there's a problem with this information that the ALMA astronomers have published. It seems like they're concerned about the astronomers of the world, according to the Washington Post report, are concerned because this ALMA observatory claims they may have spotted Planet X. Now, here's the article. The antennas of the Atacama Large Millimeter Submillimeter Array under the northern Chilean sky, researchers using the ALMA say they have found two mysterious large objects at the outskirts of the solar system. It's a big, dark presence at the farthest reaches of our solar system, a mysterious force powerful enough to skew the paths of planets in orbit, and yet so subtle that it slips undetected past even the most powerful telescopes on Earth.
All right, so here we go, folks. We're going to be talking about Planet 9, and here's what we're going to do to start things out. We're going to bring on all three men tonight, and we're going to start out with John DiNardo. He would like to give a presentation on this here briefly, and then following that, we will also include everybody. I mean, so we're all going to be live here, but we'll start with John. John DiNardo, welcome to Late Night in the Midlands. Peter, Dr. Rand, welcome, guys. John, how are you tonight?
Hi, Michael. I'm happy to be with you and your audience.
Well, it's good to have you. So, John, I don't think we need to do backgrounds tonight. I think everybody who follows this show knows who all three of you are. Unless you want to give a little background, feel free to do so, and start where you'd like.
Okay. I had composed some information that I was constituted my analysis of this Planet 9 report. And I had written two separate messages. One was the initial analysis of this Planet 9 report, and the other was a rebuttal or an answer to someone who had the opposite opinion. So I'm going to start off, for some reason, it seems that the rebuttal or the answer to the skeptic is the first composition to read that I composed this afternoon. And then after reading the rebuttal, I'm going to read the original message. It sounds a little backwards, but I think it may come out all right. Okay. I'm going to start here. This is what I wrote today in answer to some meter array telescope. And this telescope is a radio telescope comprised of large parabolic dishes that are actually radio signal receivers that detect not only will detect radio waves from various faraway objects. And so the name of this observatory is the ALMA Observatory. It stands for Atacama Large Millimeter Array. It's an array of parabolic dishes laid out in a large field. Mm-hmm. Now I'm saying, why in the world would astronomers be in an uproar over this? What this ALMA observatory in Chile claims is possibly Planet X. My answer is the ALMA astronomers obligingly asked the astronomers of the world to study ALMA sightings and render their feedback. So what was the problem? Why is the Washington Post one who disagreed? Quoting from the Washington Post, report. It was an important report in December, the middle of December 2015, December 11th to be exact. Washington Post, quote, scientists claim they found elusive planet X. Doubting astronomers are in an uproar. That's the title of this Washington Post report. Now, I'm saying here, why would they have a title of a Washington Post report about Planet X, and the subtitle is Doubting Astronomers Are in an Uproar? My answer is, why should any astronomers be in an uproar? The ALMA astronomers, now these ALMA astronomers are the ones whom the article is referring to. ALMA stands for the Atacama, that's a place in Chile. Atacama Large Millimeter